So, you know those simple marketing promotions you see all the time? Well, imagine one of those going so wrong, so wrong that it leads to riots, lawsuits, homemade bombs, and yeah, even death. That's exactly what happened back in 1992, and it all started with a single number on a Pepsi bottle cap.
Our story really kicks off in a slum in Manila, in the tin-roofed shack of a woman named Victoria Angelo. Her husband was a rickshaw driver, making maybe $4 a day. So for her and her 5 kids, a new life, well, that felt like a total pipe dream. But one night, holding a Pepsi bottle cap, she thought that dream had just become a reality.
But here's the thing. Victoria, she wasn't alone, not by a long shot. That same night, hundreds of thousands of other Filipinos were sharing that exact same dream. And when that dream got shattered, well, all that hope turned into this incredible fury that would eventually become known as the Pepsi War.
So how in the world did a simple soda promotion get an entire nation this hooked? Let's get into it. This is how Pepsi's Number Fever completely took over the Philippines.
The contest was genius, really, super simple. You buy a Pepsi, you look under the cap for a 3-digit number, and then every night you watch the news to see if you won. And the grand prize? We're talking life-changing money. Seriously, the whole thing was a massive, massive success. Pepsi's market share shot up by almost 40%. And this was in a country where, let's be honest, Coke was king.
Okay, so this is the moment where everything changes. It's May 25th. Families all over the country are huddled around their TVs. The news anchor comes on, announces the grand prize winning number for that 1 million peso jackpot. And the number is 349.
Can you just picture it? The absolute chaos. Not just in one house, but in thousands of houses. People like Victoria Angelo are digging through their stashes of bottle caps, and bam, there it is, 349. The screaming, the crying, the immediate plans for a new life, it was just this nationwide explosion of pure joy. We're talking tens of thousands of people all believing in that one moment that they were millionaires.
But while all this celebration is happening out in the streets, inside Pepsi headquarters, it's a very different story. It's just total, absolute panic. See, here's the catch. The plan, Pepsi's actual plan, was to print exactly 2 bottle caps with the number 349 and the special security code for the grand prize. Just 2. That's it.
But a computer glitch, some tiny error in the system, had accidentally sent out 800,000 caps with that winning number, 349. Now, they didn't have the secret security code, but who's going to know that? To the public, a winning number is a winning number, period.
Let's just take a second to process this number. If Pepsi paid every single person who walked in with a 349 cap, it would have cost them something like $15 billion. That was literally more than the entire company was worth on a global scale. It just wasn't possible. So, you've got these executives in a frantic 3 a.m. crisis meeting, and they make a decision that would change everything. They decided they would announce the computer error, say that only the caps with the secret code were the real winners, and, as a goodwill gesture, they'd offer 500 pesos, about 20 bucks, to anyone else with a 349 cap. They really thought this would smooth things over. Man, were they wrong.
Right. So that $20 offer, it wasn't seen as goodwill. Not at all. It was seen as a slap in the face, an insult, and it was the spark that lit the whole country on fire.
And things escalated so fast, it's terrifying. What started as protests, it turned violent, and it turned violent quickly. This group called Coalition 349 popped up, organizing boycotts, filing thousands of lawsuits. Pepsi trucks were being attacked and burned, their offices were getting firebombed, and then, in one absolutely tragic incident, a grenade that was meant for a truck bounced off and killed a schoolteacher and a little 5-year-old girl. This wasn't just some angry customers anymore, this was a deadly conflict. And it dragged on for years, not really ending until a Supreme Court decision finally came down in 2006.
You know, this whole fiasco left such a deep scar that it literally changed the local language. To be 349 became a common phrase in the Philippines. It's just shorthand for being duped, for being cheated by a promise that was way too good to be true.
Now, while the level of violence in the Philippines was, pretty extreme, the core problem here, a marketing campaign gone horribly wrong, is actually surprisingly common. Let's look at a few other examples real quick.
Okay, so you've got Hoover, in the exact same year as the 349 disaster, offering free flights if you bought a vacuum cleaner. That blunder cost them millions and pretty much destroyed their reputation. Or how about Healthy Choice? They had this promotion where a guy figured out he could buy thousands of super cheap puddings to get over 1 million air miles. And you know what? They paid him. And then there's Pepsi again, back in court, when a student actually took their joke about trading 7 million Pepsi points for a Harrier jet seriously.
All right, so why do some of these stories end with a company cutting a check and it becoming a fun little anecdote, while others, end in riots? Let's dig into the logic behind these massive corporate faceplants. The real question here is this. When a company makes a promise that's just too good to be true, what decides what happens next? What makes them pay up versus fight it out? It turns out there's a pretty predictable pattern here. Yeah, it really all boils down to two simple questions that any company in this kind of mess has to ask. First, how much is it actually going to cost us to pay everyone? And second, how bad are we going to look if we back out of this promise? So if we use this little grid, we can pretty much map out all these fiascos. Look at the top right. You've got the pudding man situation. Super cheap to pay, and it would have looked absolutely terrible for them to stiff one clever customer. Now, bottom left, the Harrier jet. Way too expensive to actually give away, but the ad was so obviously a joke that Pepsi had no problem defending themselves in court. Easy out.
And that brings us right back to Number Fever. It landed hard in that bottom right box, the absolute worst place to be. The cost to pay up was astronomical, enough to sink the company. But the cost of backing out? Well, that was just as bad. Because this wasn't some joke. This was a promise made to thousands of people living in poverty, people for whom that money wasn't a prize, it was a lifeline. It was a promise that was way too expensive to keep and just far too cruel to break.
Which really just leaves us with this final thought. I mean, in the end, Pepsi was cleared by the courts, but that was after years of violence, after millions spent on security and PR, and after their reputation took a massive, permanent hit. It really makes you wonder, when a corporation makes a mistake this big, who really pays the price? Is it the company? Is it the customer? Or is it sometimes, tragically, both?